Alrighty, guys and gals, what's going on? It's Big E here. This is kind of a one-off video. It's by request. I had a couple of people ask me, and that's enough for me to make a video. I'm still a small enough YouTuber where I can do that. So this is just tips and tricks from my personal experience. If you are thinking about trying an actual hardcore challenge, it's called the Ironman challenge. Now, a lot of people have never heard of it. A lot of you probably already know about it. Some of you may, have completed it or at least tried it. This challenge, the Ironman challenge, has been around, as far as I know, since I think the original Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King. It could have been Cataclysm, but I'm not exactly sure which one. I have a feeling it's Wrath. The first person that I'm aware of that ever completed it was a player named YouTuber called Kriparian. He's a streamer. I think he's still out there. I think he does Hearthstone videos. He got a hunter, and I think at the time it was level 80. So I guess that was Wrath of the Lich King, maybe. Anyway, been around for a long time. So Blizzard has its own version of hardcore, which I'm not trying to be a dickhead, but it's kind of softcore in my opinion. It's just permadeath. Anything else goes in the challenge. You can have any gear you want. You can get into groups, health pots, buffs, whatever. Anything goes. It just requires you to pay a little bit of attention, really, is it. So again, this video isn't for somebody who's well experienced and who's done this. This is for somebody who's never tried a hardcore challenge. They don't know what it is. And specifically the Ironman challenge. I do have people come by from time to time and they've never heard of this. Some people say, well, how is this fun? I never know how to answer that question. It seems like a stupid question to ask. If you have to explain to somebody why something is fun, then right off the bat, it's not for you, right? It's fun for me because it's challenging. It's hard. It's no different than turning the difficulty level up in your favorite game and trying it again. That's all this is. So anyway, hopefully I'll put some rules up on the screen over here. Now, there are many different versions of the Ironman challenge. Well, I don't want to say versions, but there's many different versions of World of Warcraft. So the rules have changed over the years, and you could probably go to 5 different sites and you probably find 5 different variations of this rule set. I'm going to basically I typically use the one that's the original classic version for the most part. So first and foremost, you can't die on your character. It is permadeath. Second, gear. You're not allowed to have any gear above white quality. That means only gray or white items. That's it. You'll never be able to equip green, blues, whatever. Not allowed in the challenge. You cannot pick any talent points. So these 2 things make it incredibly difficult. The talent points line up with the abilities of your character for the most part. Can't pick any talent points. So very, very difficult, especially if you have chosen like a warrior. So class choice in the Ironman challenge is going to make a big difference in the difficulty. The furthest I've ever gotten personally in this is level 57. We did a long Let's Play on the channel here. I died in a cave, which it's one of the things I'm going to tell you not to do in the Ironman challenge. Hunter, you got a good chance though, because you've got a tank out there, and Hunter has all kinds of tricks in their bag, much like a rogue. Characters get better and better as you learn more abilities from each trainer. So abilities are allowed. You can see your class trainer and use those abilities, but warrior is probably the toughest to do on the Ironman challenge. And if I'm able to make it, if I can complete this challenge on a character, I will try an Ironman warrior. But anyway, not get ahead of myself there. No deaths, no gear above white quality, no talents. Now, buffs. You're not allowed to have any other buffs from any other source in the game except from whatever you can put on yourself. So you can't have a food buff from eating food. You can't, if you're playing priest, you get Mark of the Wild, a paladin gives you Blessing of Kings, whatever it is, you can't have it. You have to right click as soon as you're aware of it and get rid of it. Now, would take priest again, for example. I'm currently trying an Ironman priest. I can put power word fortitude up on myself. I can put inner fire. I think I have shadow protection. Anything that I can learn from my trainer, I can use as a buff. Just no other outside buffs are allowed. No health pots, armor pots, no kind of potions, scrolls. Again, it's part of, it kind of goes hand in hand with no outside buffs, really. But you're not allowed to use health pots. But as a priest, I can heal myself. So it can be beneficial playing something like a druid, priest, a healing class, paladin, something like that. Professions. So I think originally, now I could be wrong on this, no professions at all were allowed in the Ironman Challenge. At some point, they allowed you to use first aid. So that's up to you. Play it how you want. If you want to go super hardcore, I mean, if you're playing like a melee class, first aid, you're really going to need it. But if you're playing a healing class, like I think I learned first aid, but I never use it. I'm vendoring the cloth that I'm using. So this one's up to you. But I think for the most part, it's standard now that first aid is allowed. I'm just kind of looking over here at the rules. So you cannot get into groups. I'm playing my character right now. I will group up with somebody if they need help and it's safe for me to do. I'll help somebody. It doesn't benefit me but by doing that. But I can't group up with somebody to get help. So if you want to play this the classic way, no groups, period. You're just not allowed to do it. Now, if you're out in the world running around in a quest and somebody comes up and they're just helping you, there's not really a lot you can do about that. I mean, if you weren't in a bad situation, you could type in, hey, I'm not allowed to have any help, do an Ironman challenge, whatever. But there's some things in the game you're just not going to be able to avoid. Some people may try to help you or whatever. But for the most part, no groups at all. Goes without saying, if you're a solo player, you're not going to be doing dungeons, raids, battlegrounds, arena. Don't do that. You're just not allowed to do it. This is different retail, but in classic version, there are no guilds allowed. I think there's an exception if you are in an Ironman guild. I have seen those. They're not many, but you can't have any guild perks by joining a guild. That's really the big thing. No guild perks. No recruit a friend activities. I don't know where I got this list, but I'm not even used to seeing that one. Now it says no add-ons. This one, I don't know. The add-ons I use are pretty much all cosmetic. I can change my UI. I use Bagnon, things like that. This one's up to you. It doesn't change the severity of the challenge. I mean, now if you're using something like rested XP guides, just don't do it. Why even bother doing a hardcore challenge if you're going to do rested XP guides? Because rested XP guides is such a high level of hand holding, it's ridiculous. That thing tells you step by step what to do, where to go, when to do it, what not to do, what to skip to go to the next. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. If you're doing this for the first time, do yourself a favor. Don't use rested XP guides. I feel like rested XP guides are for players who they've been playing the game for a while. They're just trying to level a character up quickly. I think it costs money anyway. I don't know why you would pay for hand holding, but again, this is just my personal opinion. Do whatever you want. So the add-on things is going to be up to you. I use stuff like Bartender, Bagnon, so I can change the interface a little bit. I use this thing called Kill Track, so I can keep track of how many things I've killed. It doesn't really help me in my character level progress for the most part. So you are allowed to have mounts. All quests are allowed, I'm pretty sure, including holiday and daily quests. Bags. So this is something I've gone back and forth with. The rules I'm looking at right now from a site say all bags are doable. I play where I can only have white bags. So if there's, like a really good green bag, I can't get it or whatever. But I think you can get still 12 slot white bags. But that's another thing. that you may or may not want to follow the rule set on. But that's it. Those are the rules of the Ironman challenge. Now, general tips and tricks. This, I don't know. It's a lot of it is just being aware. And underneath the title aware, you could have so many bullet points here. So I've kind of made just a little list here. I'll go over. So you're solo questing. You're going to want to focus on green mobs. Now, in the beginning, that's pretty much all you're going to see. But eventually you'll get, levels 15, 20, 25, and you'll have options, green quests, yellow quests. So if you don't know, a green quest is something that's usually below your level. A yellow quest would be something, in a lot of cases, still below your level, maybe a level higher. Then you have orange quests and red quests. Stay away from those, period. So this is the severity. So if you're trying to fight something that's a level above you, just one level, that mob has a higher chance to resist, dodge, all that. You also have a higher chance of missing your spells on that mob. So if you're playing a character who doesn't have any talents and no gear, your health pool and mana pools are going to be small compared to the mobs you're fighting. So this is why I would suggest fighting green mobs. Now, I fight yellow mobs quite a bit in my hardcore challenges, but it depends. Like I'm doing another hardcore challenge called the Naked Warrior Challenge. That is brutal. The Ironman on the priest is actually easier simply because I have bubble on the priest. And I can heal. On the warrior, I don't have that. I'm just being hit on the warrior for the most part. So I almost have to fight green mobs on that naked warrior, especially at the level I'm at, because so here's something else that's going to happen in the game. The game is designed, it's a progression system, even if you're just solo questing. I'm not talking about the tiers, rating, and dungeon gear, any of that. I'm just talking about solo questing, and gear just drops from the world or quest rewards. By about levels 20, 25, I'll say 25, you're expected to have green gear for the most part, if not a full set, and maybe even a blue or two. So the mobs will scale up as you get higher level. But the way that the game is supposed to work classically is with your gear and talents and all this, you're always just riding above the mob. So you can fight a mob 2-3 levels above you. Now you still have a chance to hit and miss, but your damage is so much higher compared to if you had no gear, no talents. So you'll see a big shift. If you choose to do the Ironman challenge and you're chugging along, you will slowly start to see the mobs get a little bit harder to kill because eventually their health pools are going to be much larger than yours. Something to keep in mind. I would do one mob at a time. You're kind of going to be forced to do that unless you're playing like a mage. But even if you're playing a mage, a typical mage, especially if they're if they're frost, they have where they can farm like 10 mobs at a time, right? You're not going to be doing any of that. Or a warrior, he charge in on one mob, pull another one. He's got gear, he's got health, he's got armor. Not a problem. You're not going to be able to do that in the Ironman challenge. You can try and push your luck, but I wouldn't suggest it. So green mob should be priority. That's all I'm going to say there. So back to awareness with this Ironman challenge. Being aware of things like a patrol, especially if you know the area, if you know where certain patrols are, like you're going into an ogre area, it's like, okay, I know there's a patrol here because I've been here before. What I would do as soon as you see a patrol, mark it up. So I remap my F keys, F1 through F5, skull, cross, circle, square, triangle, moon. If I see a patrol, even if it's off in the distance, I'll put a skull. I'll mark it up so I can see that thing from way far away. I know where it's at. That way you don't have a chance of something maybe sneaking up on you that you didn't see. Be aware of respawn rates. If you're playing on a server with a lot of people, and especially if the area you're in is being heavily farmed, you can have hyperspawns. Literally, you kill a mob and it comes up immediately. So that can happen to mobs you've just slain behind you. So awareness is going to be key. You actually have a better chance on the Ironman challenge to do it on a dead server because you don't really have to worry about that. If you're the only one in the zone, you don't have to worry about hyper spawns, right? You can kill your way in and not have to worry about those mobs behind you popping up really quickly. I mean, eventually they will, but so just keep in mind things like that. Zoom level. I play my character zoomed out to a comfortable level for me where I'm still immersed in the game. But I've seen people pull the camera all the way back out, and I've even seen players on Twitch and stuff where they do a command line and they look like a speck on the screen. Now that's ridiculous. I don't know how you would get used to that, but the point is, don't be so zoomed in on your character that you can't see 10 feet on either side of you. That, just little things like that. Again, all this is under awareness. Another thing to watch out for or be aware of is humanoids. So humanoids in the game, I think 99% of them will run away. Not all humanoids will, but most, when they get low in health, they will run. And some of them will run much sooner than others. So be aware of that. If you're having trouble with mobs already and they're humanoids, hopefully you've got some ability. So warrior you would want a hamstring. So when they go to run away, at least they're not running off, charging into another pack. Mage, Frost Nova, whatever you have, right? Keep that in mind. And I would just say, as far as caves go, don't go into them. I still do it. I still push it. If the mobs are green in there and they're really green, meaning I'm like 5, 6 levels above them, caves, I can handle it for the most part. I say I can, but I've died in caves so many times. The best rule of thumb is just don't do a quest where you got to go into a cave. Do yourself a favor because it's tight quarters. You can't see around the corners. If you know the cave and you know the patrols and what type of mobs, that might be a little bit different. If you don't know what's in the cave, if you're new to the game or something, don't do it on a hardcore challenge. Just do yourself a favor. So that goes hand in hand with something else, like knowing what to expect. And again, all this is under awareness. I've been playing the game so long that I kind of know the areas. I know the patrols. I know certain quests lead to spawning of multiple mobs. Like I know if I click on this, there's going to be 3 things that pop out. Knowing things like that is a huge, huge help, knowing what to expect. Escort quests, don't do them. Do yourself a favor, do not do escort quests. Escort quests in Classic, to word it the best way I can, they suck ass. You can escort a mob and you can be walking with it and you aggro something. The chances are the escort's just going to keep walking. Now, not all of them are like that, but a lot of them are. So you're fighting this mob and he's walking into more mobs. Just don't do an escort quest. They're stupid. It's the best way I can put it. If you choose to do an escort quest, do yourself a favor. Whatever path your escort is taking, you let him tag the mob first. Let the escort get aggro because he for the most part, they'll fight. And then you're both on it. Don't run ahead trying to pull mobs because if he goes a different route or something, it's just going to be a nightmare. So that's just my opinion there. And then the last thing I want to talk about is gear. So obviously only gray or white gear. So you're going to be picking this stuff up early, up to level 12 through 15. You're going to be getting white gear and gray gear from drops. After that, you'll get into like your first and secondary zones, white and gray gear, maybe some green. Your tertiary zones and beyond is when you'll start getting green quest rewards, and you just can't use that shit. So you'll get to a point where you're going to have the same gear on that you had like 10 levels ago. Like okay, I'm level 17. Man, I've had this thing since level 3, right? That's going to happen. Especially if you use the rule where you're not allowed to use the auction house. Now, I don't know if I mentioned the auction house. There are rules that say you can use the auction house. There are rules that say you can't. It depends on how you want to play. I've done both ways. The thing is, it's not like you can buy shit off the auction house. I mean, you can't buy decent gear. Somebody every once in a while, they will post white gear, but it's usually a cosmetic and it's super expensive. What I use, if I elect to use the auction house and in the Ironman challenge, I'll use it just to sell the cloth that I picked up. Or if I picked up a green item and I can't use it, sell it for money. But if you're doing it for the first time, maybe don't use the auction house. Anyway, my point is you will be able to buy gear from vendors. So about every 10 levels, I check back with gear vendors. These are in your major cities. You also have weapon vendors. And you also will have these out in the world. Randomly, you might see a cloth vendor or heavy armor vendor. Always check those vendors. Get in the habit of whenever you go into a town, look around for those specific vendors because they might have something you need. Now, in my experience, those vendors will have the same gear that you'll find in the major cities, Orgrimmar, Undercity, Stormwind, Ironforge, right? The 4 big ones there, at Darnassus as well. But for instance, I'm playing a priest right now. There's a cloth vendor right near the auction house, and he has, I don't want to say tiers, but he has different levels of white gear. You can get them at level 20 and 21, 30, 31, 40, 41, 50, 51, I think. I'm pretty sure. Same thing with wands or whatever. Your axes, go to your weapon vendors. You can do this. Do it about every 10 levels. And you can make a decision whether you want to spend gold. Now, it's a little bit pricey. That vendor gear, believe it or not, is a little bit expensive. And it might make a difference. Now, as a priest, it's not that big of a deal for me because I've got bubble up. I try to keep it up all through the fight I'm doing if I'm on a melee mob or whatever. If you're doing a melee class, you're going to want to buy that gear because I know it's not much armor, but any armor you get is going to be helpful. So if you're playing a warrior, find your male armor person right away, or plate. I think warriors can wear plate right off the bat, right? So this is the benefit of playing a warrior is anything that drops, whether it's cloth, leather, mail, plate, you can wear it. It doesn't matter. If you're playing a caster, you're only wearing cloth. So but as a caster, you're ranged. So it's not that big of a deal, but something to keep in mind for melee class, and check back with your weapon vendors as well. And anything else. I think that's pretty much it. I didn't want to make this a super long video. Like I said, this was a request. They're thinking about trying the Ironman challenge. It's a lot of fun. Personally, I think, because it's very hard to do. Death matters in the game, and you're going to look at the game a whole different way. If you're used to playing like retail or something, you run into a dungeon in a retail, a leveling dungeon, and everybody's pulling everything. It just doesn't matter. This is a much different experience. You're going to be very aware the first time you pull 2 mobs, you're like, oh shit, am I going to die? It's just exciting. It just makes it more exciting. And for me, personally, that's fun. Anyway, I hope this helps somebody out. If you have specific questions, let me know. And if you're somebody who's done the Ironman challenge, if you got a lot of experience and you have other tips you want to leave, please do. Maybe it'll help some people out. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I play the game to have fun. And that's why I do challenges like this. I love this game right up here, this version of it. And I just like to play it differently. So there's another thing called the Naked Warrior. It's been around for a while, but I think it's been made famous by this character called The Flesh, who's blowing up in popularity. That's where I saw it, and that's why I'm doing it. It's a Naked Warrior, and it's tough to do. Yes, it is. I would say it's tougher than the Ironman challenge, in my opinion, depending on what class you're playing. But anyway, that's it for me. I hope this helps you out. You guys and gals take care. I'll see you in a future episode of something. Peace.